let's just cut the bullshit and get right into the controller review.
Now cue the music.
There we go. Hi. The Gamecube controller arguably has to be one of my favorite controllers I've ever used in my lifetime. Now, there's no amount of wisdom or any technical advice I can give about the controller, but what I can give you is a little bit of history. Being that history is about my experience. Now, as a kid, I thought the GameCube controller was one of the best controllers that I could find. Now, I did grow up with Xbox and PlayStation, and among other things. But when I was growing up with the Wii, the one controller that I seemed to have pretty much adapted to was the Wiimote. Now, don't get me wrong, a Wiimote is nice. Simple, ergonomic, full of motion controls and nonsense like that. So it had a thing going for it. But when it came to the GameCube controller, even now, I couldn't let go. Now, if you've seen some of my older videos, and most of my videos up to date nowadays, I'll sometimes just flash you the GameCube controller and then just continue playing, and basically I'm controller flexing on you. But aside from the controller flexing, the controller you'll most commonly see me use for Switch is this one, the Nintendo Switch Pro GameCube controller. This is just basically a regular Nintendo Switch Pro controller with a GameCube shell on it, but it still feels and looks like a GameCube controller. Now, from a distance, people might say, "Oh, he's got a GameCube controller." But when you take a closer look at this thing, it's got the plus, minus, home, and capture button. And another thing you notice is it'll have a second Z button. But in this case, the original bumpers are the triggers, and the extra Z button are both bumpers. So, yeah. Now, another feature that a lot of people don't realize for the Pro controller is it has clickable sticks. Now, if you've looked back far enough on my channel, you'll notice I did an unboxing of this controller, and yes, I did. However, I didn't exactly give my own personal review on it. And personally, after playing it with it for so long, it's a pretty damn good controller. Now, I don't know if you get the same feeling as I do when you either play Smash Brothers or any other game where you remap the buttons and everything, but to me, if I'm not pressing or hardly pressing on the A button, it almost feels like a control stick, or like I'm moving my thumb around the D-pad almost. Yes, it's a slick surface, that might be hard to do, but it almost feels like a D-pad or a control stick, like when you move around to press Y, X, or B. Which is why in Smash Brothers, I spam A button, and then when I want to do a short hop, I quickly most of the 90% of the time, I move the thumb upwards a little bit to press both A and Y to do a short hop. Now, the other controller that you may have seen me use on a PC game, and one of my most recent streams I did was Slain Back from Hell. Now, sadly, I couldn't do the Switch controller because I was playing it off of Epic Games. However, for Steam's purposes, the controller I use for Steam, and if you've watched my Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge series, you'll see me flash this controller. Now, this one is basically the same thing, however, it's wired. Steam will treat this like it's a normal Nintendo Switch Pro controller, and the button layout will be how it is normally, like if you play any game. B will still be jump and everything, but luckily most of the games on Steam are controller remapping compatible. And a lot of the games I play with this thing, I've always remapped the A and B button to jump and shit. And every now and then I'll remap the buttons as well to either Y or X depending on what I'm using. For example, the dodge button is X as well as the back button for Ninja Turtle Shredder's Revenge. Now, one thing about the wireless controller I have currently, sadly, it is battery operated. It's not a rechargeable battery, which honestly would have been a lot nicer, but I gotta work with what I got. And I think I ordered this guy off of Amazon, so done deal. Now, the third controller I have with me right here is the original. Now, I'll occasionally use this sucker for certain games that are very compatible with it. For example, being Street Fighter. Specifically, the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, where it's compatible with all the games. Now, the way I have it button mapped in that game is I have B, A, and X as all the punch buttons. And for all the kick buttons, I have Y, L, and R for all the kick buttons. And the rest is simple, just command inputs. Now, as for the start button, for if you've owned the 30th Anniversary Collection or not, I have start as the purple button, or Z button as I like to call it. Now, this controller can be very difficult to find any other game to be compatible with. There's a good handful of games that are very compatible with button remapping, but this thing's not going to have all the bells and whistles you need to get the job done, so yeah, you might as well be opting in just for this bad boy. Or the wired one. The wired one I'd recommend if you have power issues and if you don't have the money to really spend on packs of AA's. But if you're the kind of person that has that kind of time and money to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on AA's for sheer hours of fun, that's you. Now, I can't really tell you the benefits of the Gamecube controller other than the fact that it has octagon or hexagonal I guess this would be windows, the windows of the stick, where it'll kind of just rotate in any sort of form of a specific direction, like you're gonna go right no matter what, straight no matter what, or diagonally no matter what. Same with the C stick. Now, a lot of players don't like the small C stick. I personally don't have a problem with it. I mean, there are some cases where I have to press a button, then move the C stick to turn the camera at the same time in certain situations, depending on the game I'm playing. But other than that, I don't really have that much trouble at all. Now, I'm no Bob Wolf or Woodhawker, aka Wolf Den or Beat 'em Ups, but I am a consumer of both games, accessories, merch, and controllers. And when it comes down to the controller, my go-to controller will forever and always will be the Gamecube controller. I will do everything in my power to play any game on the Gamecube controller, because the Gamecube controller to me was the best thing in my childhood to hold in my hands. It still feels great to hold in the hands to this day. And I'm not as smart as most people. You know, I'm not the brightest when it comes to tech. I'm no tech whiz. That's for damn sure. But I just hope you find this short, sweet, simple review somewhat okay. I mean, personally, recommendation-wise, if you're a GameCube guy who grew up with the GameCube era and the controller's your go-to, you just gotta remember, like, the GameCube controller has evolved so much, and I'm honestly very happy that the GameCube controller can now be playable or used on anything now. Hell, you could probably use it in emulations. I've used it on emulations. It's fun. All it is the keyword, button mapping. And a lot of games nowadays have that luxury. So, yeah. If you found this review to be inspiring, and maybe you want to make your own review of your own controller that you grew up with, then go ahead. Do you. Whether it's through a short or through a fully fledged video such as this. You do what makes you happy. Now, I know I rambled on about history of the controller, my thoughts on the controller, and examples I've used about the controller. But, in the end, my review stays final. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see gameplay videos of me using these 3 controllers in action, go ahead and check out my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!